This month on Thursday mornings, we've been working with a book called The 5 Things That We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. And it's a book written by David Richo. And he says that there are 5 givens in life. 5 things that are not going to change no matter what. Everything changes and ends. Things do not always go according to plan. Really? Life is not always fair. Pain is a part of life. And finally, people are not loving and loyal all the time. So, you talk about rules for being human, right? Because that is the human existence. And I'm sure that we've all experienced, if not all of those givens, at least 1 or 2 of them at some time or another. Now, the purpose of knowing and understanding these is to help us become more aware, believe it or not, that life truly is on our side. That as we stay mindful, we can better understand that all of these things, every one of them, are part of the human experience. And as part of the human experience, it helps us to grow. Now, it also reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, and that yes, there is something to be learned from accepting these things, from accepting life as it is instead of resisting it, instead of pushing it away, instead of getting angry, right? It is what it is, they say. That's what, there's a book written many years ago. It's called 3 Magic Words. It was written by U.S. Anderson. And this is what he said. The purpose of life is the attainment of knowledge, the expansion of consciousness, a constant reaching upward, outward, and inward toward a oneness with God. And believe it or not, that's what these givens help us do. Because as we go deeper into ourselves, we understand more. We get it, we grow, or we don't, right? And we're all working to attain that oneness with life, with our source. And that's what change helps us accomplish. And it does that through the growth process. And we can't grow, obviously, without change. Change, when we're open to it, inevitably will develop into spiritual growth. And the truth is that life is constant change. Anyone notice that? It's just constantly changing. Now, the growth part of that, of course, is optional. We're always at choice. Change will come to us, when we move in any direction, whether we're expanding our awareness and our consciousness, or whether we're retracting and pulling back and away from life. It doesn't matter. Being born, coming into this world and leaving this world in the same frame of mind, in the same attitude, ideas, concepts, actions, that's about being stuck. That's about being stale. And who wants to come in and then leave in the same frame of mind, in that same state? That's the epitome of stagnation. However, we all know people who don't mind being in the same place. They're perfectly fine and happy with what they know, how they do things. They don't feel that need to learn or to grow or to expand. And what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of look around this room. Because here's the deal. We have all chosen to surround ourselves with people who want to grow, who appreciate learning, who want to expand themselves, growing into more of who they are. And what a beautiful gift that is. Anaya Nin said this, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Haven't you found that to be the truth? Staying stuck, staying in that same place, sometimes is much more difficult than opening up and stepping outside of your comfort zone. So in the 5 things we cannot change, Richo reminds us that, again, that one immutable, do you love that? So Richo reminds us that the one immutable fact of life is that everything does change. Everything does end. All of our lives include unexpected twists and turns, unwanted changes, challenges we could have only imagined. So, insert personal thought here. Many of you have been here a long time. How many of you would believe me if I told you we had to rip our floor up again because of water? Is that amazing? Yeah, you would believe it because you were there, Gonzalo. You helped us out. You know what? Who planned that one? And what are you going to do? Well, what you do is you call friends and say, help. Life happens in its own way, no matter how much we protest, no matter how much we resist, because there is a lifespan built into everything in our life. All of our experiences, all of our relationships, places, things, you name it. There is always a lifespan for everything, because life is committed to a variety, to new growth. Richo suggests that perhaps things change so we can reach a new spiritual peak. And I love that idea. I believe that. Because we aren't going to change, usually, unless we're forced to. Unless something occurs or something happens and we need to, rethink something. Like a different type of floor. No. We do tend to become very attached to things. A person, a place, a circumstance, whatever. Because we think that thing will never change. And nothing is further from the truth. Maybe part of our issue, he says, with change is that it confronts our human illusion of permanence. And of course, nothing is permanent. But for some reason, we believe that. And as we go through the process of change and of growth, we have the choice to see the new things as exciting, as inspiring, new opportunities on the horizon. We have the option to see it that way. The opportunity to step out of our comfort zone. Sometimes that's a little scary. However, how else are we going to grow? What I have learned through that change and growth process is that we intuitively know when it's time to make changes, when it's time to take action toward making that change. We know because we feel like we don't have a choice. That there won't be a decision to make because it becomes so uncomfortable to stay where you are with that thought process or that relationship or whatever that is. You don't want to stay in that position a moment longer because you know it's not serving your highest good. It doesn't reflect your truth anymore. When the time is right for change, we are guided by the universe. And you know what else? People, opportunities, openings show up almost magically as our need arises, and everything just works itself out. I love this. Let's see if you agree. Nature gives you the face you have at 20. Life gives you the face you have at 30. And the face you have by the time you're 40 is the one that you've made yourself. Rings true for those of us over 40, right? I'm not that far over 40. I don't want you to know. But that wasn't funny. Cute kid. Who does she belong to? Anyway. Life is nothing more and nothing less than a mirror of what is of what we've become, is the point to that. If life is showing us hurt and disappointment, if it's showing us loss or betrayal, I've got really great news. And the good news is that we only have those experiences when we're equipped with what it is we need to get through that experience. We never get more than we can handle. Now, I know when you're going through garbage, boy, that's the worst thing you can hear sometimes, isn't it? But it's the truth. It is the truth. I love what Abraham Lincoln said. Most of you probably know this. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or we can rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. It's all about perception. It's all in how we see a situation, how we choose to experience a situation. Being uncomfortable and experiencing pain is part of the human experience. And that's one thing that Richo really talks a lot about. And what I find really interesting is that he reminds us that pain is not punishment. Even though that is something that we've all been conditioned to believe. It isn't the truth. Pain is merely a function, a feature of our human existence. I don't know anyone who hasn't experienced pain in some form or another. Now, I'm not saying we have to enjoy it. I'm not even saying we have to like it. I am, however, saying that it's wise to resist falling into that victim mentality. The why me, the poor me. Reality and its consequences are merely synchronicity that lead us to new perspectives, that lead us to new possibilities, a new way of seeing things. All of the major traditions agree that meaningful growth comes at the price of pain. We're called to trust the pain that we didn't plan for. Not that we planned for any of it, but, right? We don't plan necessarily for the pain that we experience in our life. However, we have learned everything we need. We have all of the tools to survive this, to heal through it. And because we're drawing those life experiences to us so we can apply what it is we've learned over the years. Our capacity to deal with pain grows in accord with our spiritual practices. How we process the information that we take in, how we view the situation, how we respond to a life situation. And even if we're doing all of those things right, there are still going to be times when we feel like it's too much to handle. Again, part of the human experience. Grace lies in accepting reality with all of those unscheduled events. Our purpose in life is not to remain steadfast and strong and upright all of the time. It's to allow ourselves to collapse when necessary, to collapse into that grace when that's what has to happen, when that's what needs to happen. To reach out to our spiritual friends for that support, that love, that genuine caring. There's a Buddhist saying that said that we learn through pain until we evolve to learn through joy. Wow. Talk about non-resistance, right? To be human is vulnerable, and to be vulnerable is to be human. If our ego can't accommodate that vulnerability and move through it gracefully, that's a hindrance to our spiritual development. Grace is the key. Grace is always the right way to be. We all have cycles of change and of balance. No one's immune to that. And we all also have a trigger point that invites change into our lives. What we think of as balance is actually the trigger that invites that change in. Now, who said the universe doesn't have a sense of humor? Right? Right when we think we have neatly arranged life to the exact point where we want it to be, guess what? Change is a-coming. That's when change comes in. It's when life looks perfect and things appear to be falling into place finally that we're actually moving away from that balance. Up to this point in your life, every experience, every relationship is training and preparation for something that we might see as something beyond our control, something beyond what we feel like we can handle. And of course, that isn't the truth. We can handle it. Our comfort zone is a signal that we're ready for change. So don't get too comfortable. That's what I'm saying. By finding new meaning in challenging experiences and by being vulnerable, we gain wisdom. Trust the process. The universe knows exactly what it's doing. It's through pain, it's through difficult experiences that we are shown the capacity to feel. And the deeper the pain, the more powerful those feelings. I love what Khalil Gibran says in The Prophet, and I'm not going to quote this right, perfectly. And he says, you know, the deeper the sorrow, right, the more capacity, the more we're open to fill with joy. And I really love that idea. It is all about making room for feelings and for love and for joy. In our deepest feelings of pain, we discover that depth of our capacity to love. And what a beautiful gift that is. So in closing, I'm going to leave you with this Chinese proverb. May the best day of your past be the worst day of your future. Thank you for being here while I shared this truth as I understand.